How's it going, everybody? We have a really big video, actually. Lots of news coming out of the Players' Voice Council, as well as some raid math that does not bode well for having to gear tier 20 certain characters. I mean, it might bode well for you. You're going to have to stay tuned to find out what I'm talking about. But let's start with the Players' Voice stuff, because these are some pretty big bombs that were dropped. In the spirit of ongoing transparency, the Players' Voice Council wants to share what we are able to from weekly meetings that transpire within Scopely representatives. Below is a brief summary. September 22nd, meeting with RJ. Players' Voice Council met with MSF General Manager Ryan Jacobson today to discuss a number of topics. The following is a summary of that discussion. The next iteration of War is in the works, and is something the team wants to make sure is done correctly before playtesting begins, with time to share feedback with the team. Yeah, when we went to the Envoy Summit months and months ago, nearly a year ago actually, I don't remember how long it was ago, they proposed some pretty stark changes to War that honestly I was pretty excited about, and then they got some more feedback, they started doing some tinkering, and we've all been wondering, hey, when is War 2.0 coming? And it looks like that was something that they talked about. So the next iteration of War is in the works, but they want to make sure they do it right. We all know what Battle World 1 was like. Take the time to do it right. That's all I gotta say. The Omega version of the Annihilation Raid is not completely off the table. Discussions continue. The changes to this raid are a simplification of what quickly becomes sim nodes in an effort to decrease low-quality screen time. Hopes are to focus dev time on more/different PvE features and events. For those of you who don't remember, it wasn't that long ago. Omega raids, instead of getting node rewards, you get completion rewards when your alliance does certain percentages within a raid. The Omega raid proposed for the Annihilation was going to be at 90%. You get the biggest completion, right? There's been a couple of changes that would really impact the introduction of the Omega raid. Specifically, they already talked about there's going to be bonus nodes for Annihilation Raids 2, which is something we're going to talk about today. I already have it pulled up. Annihilation Raids 2 is something we're going to have to talk about. If those nodes are truly bonus, then I guess it won't matter. But when we switch to Omega Raids, if you were in an alliance doing Omega Raids, you would have to completely skip over any bonus nodes unless you have every single character on that team at gear tier 20. So this would be a huge implication when it comes to that, and when we go through some of the math on the node rewards for these new raids, it's going to be pretty surprising. And I think it does have some pretty big implications, which again, we're going to get into when we talk about that. But let's continue on with these notes for now. That's going to be the other half of this video. Danger Room can vary in length and content. From the fun of utilizing the roster, example X-Men, to the latest release team, balancing time spent versus rewards is the focus now, but still narrowing on it. So there is a portion of the community that loves Danger Room. They love playing it even though they're not getting rewards. They love seeing all the different sort of builds that they can make. There's the other group that just kind of milestones and chill. I'm kind of in that second category. I like Danger Room, but not enough to spend an entire day playing it on stream. Bendable Straws would be who I recommend you go watch if you are a Danger Room fan. He loves that mode, and he plays it for, I don't know, 50 hours a day. Sounds like that doesn't make sense, but I never see him not streaming. So once you start stream, the day doesn't actually end until you hit that end stream button. But yeah, Danger Room, I feel like there does need to be some changes to make it a little bit more interesting. For a lot of the player base, it actually comes down to rewards. If I can get the maximum resource rewards very quickly, then I'm not super interested in the mode thereafter. I'm not sure if that's something that they want to change at all, though. So we'll see what the future Danger Room is. I really like the mode. I think the guys that made it are onto something special. I think a couple tweaks here and there to make the leaderboard a little bit more manipulatable in a good way, so that you can manipulate the gameplay to make yourself have a higher score. I think that would be necessary for me to be more interested in kind of hunting those luxury cosmetic items, but we'll see what Danger Room has in store for it. Sentry will join Battleworld with some quality of life improvements soon, but the null battle may not be totally in the past. The team is working on how to distribute null shards when Sentry launches, and does not want players to miss the opportunity to battle the King in Black in the future. More information to come. So it sounds like instead of them just putting null on a node, they may want players to be fighting null still in some capacity. So we'll have to wait and see what that's going to be like. Cosmic Crucible has had some critical issues that should be fixed soon in a client update. Yeah, so the permadamage that Professor X and characters like Mephisto do, right? Like if you use Mephisto's Empowered Basic on a character, they go from 100% life to 1% life, because he can't actually 100% kill somebody with it. It's really awkward. But Professor X, when he does that mind control attack and it causes permanent damage, that can get doubled. There's this really big issue right? So they're going to try and fix that, as well as just kind of not really getting the coding right on some of the rooms that they try and propose. Like Dayster's had 2 rooms now just not work. There's a little bit too in-depth, I guess, for the coding to be done in a reasonable and like working time. I'm not sure what the problem was there, but yeah, both of it was really bad. Last season was even worse. This season, it was kind of overshadowed by the permanent damage bug, but there seems to be some issues with Crucible they need to hamper down on. Competitive CC enjoyers have recently shared negative feedback on the scoring and continue to note that U32 should not count towards league status. I mean, it's fine if U32 doesn't count towards league status, but I mean, it's only people that are losing that are complaining, which is something it always is, right? But yeah, I mean, U32 being a very tournament-driven mode where there's 3 rooms instead of 6, I actually think Crucible needs more than 6 rooms at this point. It makes sense that is separate from our leagues. So I'm not sure when we're going to see the next U32 if they are officially saying, like, hey, we know this is a problem. We may not see U32 for a while. And then shared negative feedback on the scoring. I don't even know what this is. What does this mean? CC enjoyers have shared negative feedback on the scoring. Anyone in chat know what the heck's going on? I don't know what this means. Like, the efficiency scoring? People don't like the efficiency scoring? I don't know what that means. That sentence right there. We'll try and figure that out. New game modes. Oh, I would love new game modes. A couple things currently in development, but too early to share anything just yet. We really need a new game mode, a new type of tower. Like, for the Sword Satellite, we've had the same, 40 or 50, 60, whatever teams it's been. We've had those same teams for like a year and a half. There's so many cool characters that have been released since then. All the post-Ares stat characters, right? That you could really build some really interesting, fun floors with. And they need to look at doing like a novice, beginner, harder, expert level towers and have players pick which tower they want to put their effort into and have the appropriate rewards within those towers, right? I think that'd also be a great way to do a catch-up mechanic. Like, put just a crazy amount of teal gear in the medium difficulty tower, right? And just like, it'd be really, really fun, and then you can kind of tailor it to those players. But I do think we need some sort of new tower mode. It just feels like that sort of mode lends itself to this type of game so well, but is it being tapped into as good as it should be? Anyway, okay, this is crazy. This is crazy. When I read this, my jaw dropped. Overpower is noted as on pause for Purple ISO 5. Overpowered's dead. I guess there was such a visceral reaction to Overpowered by the majority of the community, and I think that the big spenders did eventually realize, like, oh, I only face other people that have Overpowered anyway. So I end up just exactly where I was. So I think it was just pissing more people off than it was appeasing. So I guess we're not going to see OP level 12 with Purple ISO 5. This makes a whole lot of sense because we do know the sort of jumps that we're going to be getting when it comes to Overpowered. In fact, let me go ahead and pull that up. We're going to see like a huge jump in the damage, right? Let's go game, or just updates. I think it was, 40% damage for skirmishers and like 30% damage for strikers. Yeah. So now these numbers make just infinitely more sense. The idea that they're giving this much stats away makes sense why Overpower is no longer going to be a thing. And I think that's a really good thing. I think that is a really, really good change. I was really actually kind of terrified at the idea of having to deal with skirmishers with 40% more damage and then Overpowered on top of that, making it 90% more damage. It would just make no sense, right? You would just be dying to like a Nebula base. It'd be just crazy. It'd be just dumb, right? That's an over-exaggeration, but you get it. So we'll see if it's on pause. It's not dead. Maybe I was a little hyperbolic there. It's on pause. So maybe we'll see it come back with the next level cap increase or the next gear tier or somewhere down the line. But lots of people were worried about Overpowered tier 2. Well, you can take that worry and stow it because they're actually taking a different direction. They're stepping back. This could mean the gear tier 20 bottleneck stays a little bit more closed than what we've seen from, one progression path previous to the current progression path. Normally it opens up a lot. We may see gear tier 20 not open up as much as, say, what would be the example? Like gear tier 19 uniques opened up. We may see that, but we're going to have to wait and see. All right. Given the direction of the general community when released, the team is looking to reawaken this topic. So we'll see what happens with that. Blue Marvel will not be will not be a mythical character. So that's your Mephistos, your Odins, your Professor X, your Super Skrull. etc. He will not be a mythic character, but he will be an epic character. That's your Captain Britain's, your Zombie Scarlet Witch. So it's a different tag, and it is to signify a step down. So I guess in Valley Flame's video, when he said, like, he's not going to be Mephisto or Odin level, they really want to send that home. Like, he's going to be an epic character, not a mythic character. This is sort of interesting. So the question then becomes, how difficult is it going to be to get Blue Marvel? Because everything they said about him, which again was just in this blog right here, everything they said about him pretty much indicates that it's going to be a Dark Dimension style unlock in everything but name. You need the purple ISO, the same way we need it for Odin, on certain tags, same way we need it for Odin, to get Blue Marvel unlocked. But he's not going to be as powerful or as impactful when he came to the game as Odin and Mephisto were. So that's super interesting, and I guess we'll see the future of Blue Marvel whenever we get that kit. We did see his speed stat in game. X is actually right. It was in game earlier last night, and he did have a speed stat of 132. I don't think we saw anything else, but we'll see what happens there. All right. Diamonds, Red Stars, and Awakened abilities should be appearing in chapter stores before they move into the shops. Noted some overdue, like Shadow King Diamonds, but the new shop changes should be coming before the end of the year with maybe more surprises too. So when they're talking about the new shop, they're not talking about the new shop. When they're talking about the new shop, they're not talking about like the antimatter store or the intel store. They're talking about that supply store, I guess. So they're saying that should be coming before the end of the year, and things like diamonds and awakened abilities should be making their way there. So we're kind of in limbo, which is super annoying because I really want the Shadow King passive, but there's no way I'm spending that much antimatter for what they want in that seasonal store. So I think a lot of people are holding their breath waiting for the supply store, and then we're actually going to be able to see if we're getting enough of those shop credits as well, because there's some concern there, but they haven't finished up. They haven't put the finishing touches on that system yet, so that's kind of concerning. All right. Noted a lot of leaderboards leading to fatigue. Yeah, we just had a Green Goblin 3-day leaderboard right on the heels of the Null leaderboard, so it's like every week we're having one now. Took time with the big boss to share direct feedback about characters that get a leaderboard as opposed to those who get an orb, and how this can lead to a bad feeling for those who do compete in these events when they are done one after another as recently. I think we've had 4 weeks, 4 leaderboards in a row, right? It's a double-edged sword. I think free-to-play players probably want there to be leaderboards like there currently are, right? Because it just means more gear tier 20. If you are trying to spend to outdo everybody on every single leaderboard, then yeah, it's going to feel real bad. What I would say, and maybe I shouldn't say this, on this most recent Hobgoblin leaderboard event, I hoarded energy. I used about 10k strike tokens on extra energy. I didn't buy any milestones for it. I do think I was able to hit some of those premium milestones, but not all of them. I got top 1,000 to 1,500. I got so much Mystic gear, and I spent so little. Like, it was just hoarded stuff up. It was just hoarded stuff, and I had the strike tokens because when I buy passes, but I was able to get it, like, at a, I'm not going to say free to play, at a super cheap to play. I was able to get a crazy amount of gear tier 20 because other people are burnt out on leaderboards. But more leaderboards do mean more gear tier 20 for everybody. It's kind of really weird when you think about it, right? So it's definitely like draining people who want to spend money and get every single leaderboard and gear 20 every single character. But if you don't, you are just passively getting more gear tier 20. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, that's it for those notes. I also had a conversation with the general manager about different stuff. I'm not able to talk about it yet, but I'm super excited to share this stuff with you when I can. But right now, we got to talk about the new raids that are going to be coming. So we do have Annihilation Raids 2 are in preview. They're going to come out the same time Superior Spider-Man comes out. But we did some math, and there's some funny math to go over. If you look here, we are currently on difficulty 8. Let's switch it to the highest difficulty. Difficulty 9. Difficulty 9, the bonus rewards, we're just going to look at gear tier 20, because this is going to be a conversation about, is it worth it to put gear tier 20 on your Insidious 6 characters and your Hellfire characters that you don't want to put it on? Because you do need to have gear tier 20 to do these extra bonus nodes when this new raid launches, okay? So, 430 Armory 20 Orb Fragments for difficulty 9, and on difficulty 8, it's going to be 345. And just so that we're all on the same page, let me make sure that I actually have the right info for you guys here. Let's go back to updates. And I do believe it was here where we were talked about Annihilation Raids 2. Yeah. So, where's the bonus difficulties? Here you go. We've also converted 2 of the nodes into bonus nodes, which required the latest teams at all difficulties with additional scaling gear tier requirements based on the difficulty up to gear tier 20 on difficulty 9. It doesn't say it's going to be gear tier 19 on difficulty 8. That's just sort of the assumption I'm making right now. So my assumption is that gear tier 20 is going to unlock difficulty 9 on these bonus nodes. With gear tier 19, you'll be able to do difficulty 8, no problem. So, with a little bit of napkin math, and I know Scotty's cringing somewhere at my napkin math, but here it is. This is what you can expect as a reward for putting gear tier 20 on your Emma, if you don't like her. On your Madeline, she's such a bad character, but she only costs 2. On your Shocker, right? Maybe you don't want to put it all into Shocker, but maybe the other characters feel better. Or maybe you just don't want to put gear 20 on any of those characters, because they're okay in War, they're okay in Crucible, but maybe you want to save it for very specific game modes that you would prefer. Difficulty 9 at 430 orb frags per day. Difficulty 8 at 345. That means your net difference in gear tier 20 orb fragments, if you were to drop down from difficulty 9 and just do difficulty 8 instead, is 85 frags per day per bonus node that you don't do, okay? At 2,000 orb fragments per orb, that means we're going to be dividing that total orb frags needed by what we get daily, and that's going to give you 24 days per orb. Now, generally, we talked about Madeline only needing 2 pieces. Emma needs 4. I think Shocker is 3, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to use the 150 total, because generally, characters need 3 gear tier 20 pieces, 25, 25, it goes up to 150. So, generally, a character needs 150 gear tier 20 pieces. There's 4 gear tier 20 pieces per orb. So, in order to get 150 gear tier 20 pieces, you are going to need 37.5 orbs. If it takes 24 days to get an orb, and we need 37.5 orbs, it's going to take 900 days to get that 150 gear tier 20 pieces to make up for that investment that you put on a given character to make sure they're gear tier 20. Do you think the Insidious 6 or the Hellfire Club are going to be needed in 900 days for that bonus node? I don't think so. 899 days because we have extra keys? Sure, Jumpy, sure. Derail the video, why don't you? My point is this. And it's a very, very clear point, and maybe it'll actually lead to something exciting. There is no reason to put gear tier 20 on your Emma or on your Madeline or on your Shocker, because we can do this, right? I did difficulty 9 all the way up to here, and I could just drop it down to difficulty 8 now if I want. And yeah, I get a little bit less gear tier 20 orb fragments, but I'm not going to be stuck on these bonus nodes for 900 days. So why bother? You'll be gear tier 20 in some of your team anyway. The only gear tier 20 that matters is the people who don't want to gear tier 20. But that's my point, Steven. This math, okay, hold on. Just put this into perspective, guys. This math is for one character, okay? When you start looking at, you don't want to do Madeline or Emma, well, now that's 6 pieces between the 2 of them. That's 300 gear tier 20. That's going to take, was that 73 days instead? 1,800 days? So if you, that's going to be the difference if you want to gear tier 20 both of them, all right? So, yeah, it's just totally not worth it, because under the current raid structure, I can do difficulty 9 all the way up to the bonus nodes. When I get to the bonus node, I can drop it down to difficulty 8, get back to the boss node, bring it back up to difficulty 9, do my sim, because that's what it's meant for, and that's it. And we're done. And by the way, never use sim with the Hellfire Club team. They're really bad. So, isn't it 75 pieces, not 150 for 3 gear to 20? No, it's 75 pieces of each mini-unique, right? You double that. So what I'm saying, unless they change the seasonal leaderboards, it makes 0 sense to care about doing these bonus nodes, or if the Omega raids come back. If the Omega raids come back, you can no longer drop down your difficulty. So if the Omega raids come back, and your alliance is like, we're doing difficulty 9, guys, because that's going to give the people who do this so much more gear to 20. Because then the math changes completely, right? If that's the case, instead of it being a differential of, 85 gear to 20 pieces a day, it would be a differential of 430 armory 20 orb fragments per day. 5 days for one orb. So, if Omega raids come back and your alliance wants to do difficulty 9, then you're forced to put everyone at gear tier 20. That's going to feel real bad, or you're going to miss out on that many armory 20 orb fragments, which will, man, maybe that still won't be worth it, actually. We'd have to do the math on that, but it would feel a lot better. My point is this, and we're just going to end it here. Don't be stressed about putting gear tier 20 on Madeline, Shocker, Emma. Maybe you don't want to put it on Sebastian Shaw. Don't be stressed about that unless we see significant changes to this leaderboard. Even if the Omega raids lock you out of those bonus nodes, I still think just the time frame it takes to actually get that much gear tier 20 on a character would probably mean you would still just skip those. Anyway, you guys are the best. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about the player's voice stuff and the math differential on gear 20 in your characters and not gear 20 in your characters. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.